Jesus is not something that you want to miss, because the real Jesus is everything. He's not a genie in the bottle kind of God, but through him, you will become everything that God created you to be. You will have what your soul is longing for. How do we really give Jesus a place of kingship in our life? Not just that it looks like it's true, but to really make him the leader of our life in all areas, and to trust that when he is in his rightful place, everything else in our life will line up according to that. So what I want to do real quick is I want to replay this scene again. And instead, we're going to put Jesus in his proper place, and we're going to see what that means. So let's go back to the cloaks. They laid down their cloaks. Part of why laying down their cloaks was showing honor was because your cloak was the outermost part of your clothing. It was for protection. It was for warmth. It was often the most or one of the most expensive pieces of clothing that you owned. And so to throw it down in the dirt for a donkey to trample on, that was a sacrifice. They were sacrificing. For you, you will know that Jesus is in his rightful place in your life when you are willing to make personal sacrifices for him. If Jesus is really king in our lives, then something that should be true of us is that we are willing to forego our own comfort for the good of someone else, for the good of what Jesus is wanting to do. That might look like standing up for somebody, speaking up for someone who's being bullied, who's being sidelined, even if it means that we are at risk of becoming a target ourselves. Personal sacrifice might mean giving up something that you'd rather keep, like your money. Every one of us in this room can think of someone we know who is struggling more than we are, or who has had something happen, or they've lost a job, or some change has happened in their life where they are struggling. And even if you don't have a lot, maybe what would it be to, give them like a grocery store gift card or something. And better yet, give it to them anonymously so that you are not tempted to get credit for it. Personal sacrifice that honors a true king in your life might be telling the truth, even when it makes you look bad. Back then, they laid down their cloaks, and it was a sacrifice. For you, what does sacrifice look like for you? What might God be inviting you into that you have been not wanting to do because he's not really the leader in your life? Thinking about the palm branches, remember, those were all about victory and triumph. But for them, the only category that they had for victory was to beat the Romans. And again, that's not what Jesus came for. But what if that same action, praising Jesus for victory, even victory that we haven't fully seen come to fruition yet, is that something that will help us keep Jesus in the rightful place in our life? When he is in the rightful place, it means that we give him the credit that he deserves. When we experience some kind of victory or we overcome something, yes, chances are we also had to work at it. But how often do we neglect to thank God, to give him credit for what only he can do? When you experience victory over an addiction, do you circle back and praise God for that work in your life? When we find the courage to forgive someone or to reconcile, or maybe when we have a great opportunity come our way right when we needed it and it seemed to be out of nowhere, do we give Jesus credit for these things? Because that is a way to respond to Jesus when he's really the leader in your life. For us, waving palm branches is like pointing to Jesus and say, he did this in me, or I could do this because of him. He is why this has happened in my life. As we head into this Holy Week and we move toward Good Friday and Easter, is there a victory in your life, something that you have experienced triumph over, that you have not yet intentionally praised God for, given him the credit that he deserves? Maybe this week you take some time to do that. And then let's not forget about Hosanna, save us. The people shouted that. But again, for them, it was the here and now. Save us from our current short-term problem. But we know that what Jesus really came to save us from was our own death. And he did that through his own death and resurrection. So much bigger. Many of you have already received that salvation. Maybe a long time ago, maybe more recently, but when you live with Jesus in the rightful place as leader of your life, salvation is an ongoing work. And I don't mean that to say you have to keep getting saved over and over again, but what I mean is as we live in that savedness, it is a renewing thing in us. It is an active, dynamic process of salvation that is happening in us. So are you still relying on Jesus to save you? Not just that one decision, however long ago, but still, are you relying on him? And if not, where do you sense God might be inviting you to rely on him more fully? Is that something that you could be thinking about this week? And for those of you that have not made a decision to make Jesus the Lord and leader in your life, for him to save you, I want to ask you to be thinking about that this week. Maybe sit with that a little bit. Pay attention to what might be stirring in you. The people back then, they missed it. But Jesus is not something that you want to miss, because the real Jesus is everything. He's not a genie in the bottle kind of God, but through him, you will become everything that God created you to be. You will have what your soul is longing for. And I hope you feel that that is worth pursuing. So give that some space in your life this week. Think about that this week, and then come back next week on Easter, because we are going to be talking a lot more about that.